Dear Legends in the Making, I gave my son everything: private coaching, the best gear, a gym membership at 14. And now I'm realizing I never actually taught him how to lead his life. He's anxious, reactive, entitled. I thought I was helping, but now I'm not so sure. Did I set him up to win or to crash? Welcome to Legends in the Making, the show for founders, parents, and visionaries ready to lead from clarity, not chaos. I'm your host, Erin Sarles Bowers, mother, movement builder, and truth teller. And this is where we return to who we really are. So let's dive right in. Dear Legends in the Making, I'm struggling, not just as a parent, but as a person who thought I was doing everything right. My son is 17. He's talented, even gifted even. He got the build, the skill set, and the tools a young athlete, all the tools a athlete could ask for. We've invested thousands into his futures, trainers, clinics, highlight reels, gear, mental performance coaches, you name it. But when it's game time, he disappears. He looks overwhelmed. He waits for someone to tell him what to do. He gets frustrated at the first sign of adversity. He shuts down. And lately, I've been asking myself the painful question I can't unhear. Did I hand him the keys to a car I never actually taught him to drive? Did I mistake provision for preparation? Did I parent out of fear that he wouldn't be enough on his own, so I overcompensated? Did I confuse love with rescue? I thought I was helping. I thought giving him everything meant I was giving him the best shot. But now I'm realizing he might have the opportunity, but not the ownership. He might have the vehicle, but no map. And worst of all, I've built a system where was never asked to lead, just perform. I love my son deeply. That has never been the issue, but I don't know how to undo what I modeled. I don't know how to reset without him thinking I'm ashamed of him. I don't want to push him away. I want him to stand tall, to rise, to lead himself when I am no longer around. How do I course correct? Not from panic, but from truth. I'm not looking for easy answers. I'm looking for the wisdom to love him into leadership, not just results. Please help me see what I've been missing. With humility, mother of one becoming a man. God, what a profound letter that is. And really, how insightful that you're looking and reflecting and really seeing like how are we creating responsibility for our young athletes, for our young adults, or are we rescuing them? Are we in a culture that's raising passengers? And how do we develop legacy within our youth to then raise the drivers of their own bus? What a beautiful analogy. I love her line in this letter of, did I hand him the keys to a car I never actually taught him to drive? Wow, what an insightful point. Is like, we often just give, which I think she pointed out in her letter, to compensate and make their life easy, but we're actually not teaching them how to drive. We're not giving them the roadmap to life. And ultimately, your child is the driver of their life. And they aren't meant to figure this out alone, but are what we are doing really helping them become the drivers of their life? Or are we overcompensating, taking over to the point where they don't even actually know how to drive? They don't know how to live. They don't know what to do. And really, parents and in the athletic realm, coaches, you're the GPS, you're the guidance system. Hey, we got to reroute. Where are you at? Where are you going? Let's reroute here. We're the brake check, the passenger. Keep your eyes up, keep looking ahead. But how often do we hand over the car and then try to steer it from the back seat because we feel like we're being overbearing. We don't want to sit in the front seat with them, telling them what to do. It's like, how do we guide them in a space of allowance, but really set them up for long-term success? We're not giving our children the keys to success. We're seeing what they're being raised in right now is a culture of instant gratification, like things at their fingertips, a perceived reality that isn't truly real. To understand that results are the efforts of very hard work, of consistent day in and day out, things that are unseen that we don't see as a result of somebody's greatness. And so we have to look at like why when we rescue, we're not building resiliency. Us flying in to save the day as a parent is not actually helping them. And I love that analogy. It's like, I'm going to equip them with all the tools. Here's all the coaches, but are they getting the guidance and the coaching that they need to go, how do you build yourself as a quality human being? How does working with a performance coach or a strength and conditioning coach really help you become a better person? And if you're working with that person, why are you working with that person? What is that building? How is that helping them? And then it's just like, we're just going to give. And it's like, we've got to take a step back and go, how do we actually set them up for success by making them think through what do they actually need? We have this misperception in our culture, and we've gotten worse and worse and worse. I think as generations have gone along, is like, if we do it for them, it's helping. How often, and I've done this as a parent, it's like, I'm not enabling my children to step up to be better human beings when I'm the one running around making sure that, they have their cleats, they have their water bottle. Oh, when they forget their water bottle, I'm bringing them their water bottle. Whatever the case might be, we think that we're helping them out, but like teaching them how to be organized and disciplined, and that it's their responsibility to get all of that stuff together is one small example of how we are creating entitlement. It's like they don't have to suffer the consequences because somebody's always there to pick them up. It's like, well, you forgot your water. This might be a suck fest for you today, at practice. What do you have to do in order to ensure you have everything you need in order to be successful? And if we don't teach them how to handle pressure, they're going to collapse underneath it. We are not teaching our kids to be discerning, to logically think through stuff. What we're doing is we're handicapping them, and we're making them feel like everything that they do, it's just somebody else is going to take care of it. And they have no resourcefulness in order to address or take care of it themselves. And they also then don't have the tools to have the conversations because we have so much technology that it's like, I can just hide behind my screen versus like, I actually have to go engage and maybe have an uncomfortable dialogue with somebody. And it's uncomfortable because we're not doing it enough. Conversation shouldn't be uncomfortable if we're in our truth, if we're sharing from our heart and knowing that we see the person where they're at. We have a culture where it's us versus them. So oftentimes versus like, this person's on my team and wants what's best for me. So how do I look at criticism and feedback as a gift? We also have to create that structure within our athletes because I see it so frequently of it's a very sensitive generation. And I don't mean sensitive in a bad way. They're just more tapped in. They can read what's going on beneath the words. And so they're more in tune to the frequency. They're a little bit more spiritually evolved, is how I would look at it. I think of my daughter oftentimes. She is very tapped in, where she can feel the underlying current. And so it's a blessing and a curse, because it's like, rather than seeing and hearing what the coach is having to say as far as how to grow, she's picking up on all the underlying discontentment that coaches might have in the situation, projecting their disappointment out. And it's like, so we as leaders, we as coaches, we as parents have to become more intelligent when it comes to our emotions, because they can read and pick up on those. And so are we in a place that is truly of service, of help, of love, and of space for them to grow? Are we the GPS in the car system, but we're really allowing them to drive? And when they get off course, we're going to help gently reroute them. This has been a big hurdle for me to get over as a parent, but what my children do is a reflection of them. It's not a reflection of me. We've created that sense of what they do is an extension of me. No, what they do is an extension of them. They're a whole and complete human being. So how do we treat them as whole and complete human beings while we're giving them the guidance they need to step into who they are? That's the journey of child to adulthood, is how do you step into the version of yourself that God asked you to be? And then along the way, we as parents, as their guide, people that are coaches, leaders that work alongside them, become the GPS. We're holding space for them to drive, but we're rerouting them in a loving, gentle way when they're getting off track. And so what they need is vision and structure and repetition and consequences and encouragement. That's what they need. That's part of the GPS system that's inside the car. But are we creating the space for them to create their own vision? How do we create structure through discipline that helps them repeat what they need to be doing in order to be successful? When I think about it, we don't quit when it's hard. We recalibrate it and we go again. And that's the other thing is like when anybody gets criticized, we want to just stop. And it's like, no, what is this trying to teach me? What is the lesson? What's the rerouting? Everything that is happening is always happening for the highest and greatest and good of us. And so are we as parents setting that standard? Are we taking things that we come up in our lives as a recalibration and redirection? And are we role modeling what we're asking them to be and how they're supposed to be? And so what parents need to remember, your love isn't less just because you hold the line. You having a high standard for your child is drastically important. You have to ensure that they know what's the standard that they're holding. Is this a reflection of your exceptionalism? If it's not, what are we going to do differently? This isn't about me creating punishments. It's about how do you rise into your greatness? You're not raising a highlight reel. We're not raising people for instant gratification. I hear so many stories of athletes that the sport becomes their identity. And then when it ends, whether it's at college, wherever it might be, even in the professional world, they don't know who they are. They slip back. It's like they made it to the pinnacle. And then it's like, what do I do now? I don't even know who I am. So sports is one vehicle, but are we raising young men and women to be the leader of their lives, to be future leaders for other people, and not just like running after the accolades or endorsement deals or NIL? We live in such a society, a perceived society of lack when we're in an infinitely abundant universe? And so it's like, how do we move that to one where it's like, this isn't about instant gratification. It's about the legacy you're building and who you're becoming. That's more important than how high can you jump in order to go on to college to play volleyball. You're going to have a lot more life after that. And do you have the skills and tools in order to be resilient throughout your life? And as parents, you're not responsible for their outcomes. But what you are responsible for and accountable for are the systems and standards that you set. Are you giving them the examples of how to become resilient, incredible adults that will make ripples in the legacy for generations to come? You don't create legacy by taking the wheel from them. You build it by walking beside them while they're learning to drive. And so I'm really excited. We're hosting our first workshop this Thursday at 12 p.m. Mountain Standard Time. The student athlete is the bus driver, and this is a live event for parents, coaches, student athletes, anybody who wants to stop rescuing and wants to start building. So DM me bus or visit bluechip.com to register. And I cannot wait to see you there. And please share and invite all your friends if this resonates with you.